This is an amazing article by Nicole Laporte for The Angler, which outlines the similarities and differences between the Obamas and the Harkles and their deals with the streaming giants Spotify and Netflix. I've linked Nicole's Twitter and The Angler's article in the description of this video, so go and show them some love. Welcome back, my body language buddies. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the body language guy, and it would be great if you join us by just liking this video, subscribing, and hitting that bell. Let's get down to it. But well, here we are, royals, Obamas, and the end of the 100 million vanity deal. Starting in 2011, streaming cash reigned on the world's two most famous couples. The challenge: neither had ever produced any Hollywood content. At 8 a.m. EST on Tuesday, August 23, digital billboards lit up in Times Square and across Los Angeles, Toronto, and Sydney. The displays feature a stunning black and white image of Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, dressed in a simple J.Crew white tank top. Markle had the natural, unvarnished quality of a Dove commercial, with her long, dark hair falling loosely around her face. You know, that spontaneous Meghan image. Aside from the billboards and some social media messaging from Spotify, nothing else announced the arrival of Markle's long-awaited Spotify's podcast series, Archetypes with Meghan. The show's first episode launched simultaneously with the billboards, featuring a conversation between Markle and Serena Williams. The effect was a surprise media drop equivalent of Beyoncé's Lemonade. It was a bold move for Markle and the production company Archewell, which she runs with Prince Harry. Well, yeah, of course. Archewell, of course, was part of the couple's post-royal family reincarnation as media moguls in the US since relocating to the lush seaside enclave of Montecito. So they have signed a slew of book, podcast, and movie and TV deals as they set about defining their new roles as frenemies of the crown. But the unorthodox release of Archetypes was also perhaps a necessary move for Markle and company. Until Tuesday, the running refrain in the entertainment industry about the company was, "Where is the product?" The couple's 25 million Spotify deal, inked in December of 2020, had only yielded a single Christmas episode until this week. As for their deal with Netflix, also signed in 2020 and worth a reported 100 million, almost as much as veteran mega producer Shonda Rhimes from Grey's Anatomy, there have yet to be any movies, documentaries, or TV shows. Indeed, the biggest news generated on that front was in May when Netflix cancelled Archewell's animated TV series Pearl, which had been a passion project of Markle's. The news set off a fire alarm at Archewell, says an Archewell insider, not authorized to speak on the record, of course. Harry and Meghan called an all-hands meeting. They were deeply concerned about the optics of this. Meghan wanted to talk to Ted Sarandos, co-CEO of Netflix. Well, I always said that you can solve many things by talking, so who knows? Another Archewell source says there was never any conversation with Sarandos, nor any special treatment over the issue. No flowers, no call, nothing. This person also denies that the meeting Markle convened had a 911 emergency tone. This is where the heat begins to rise. The carefully engineered arrival of Archetypes, which by all counts was positively received in its first 24 hours, well, that is debatable, points to the growing pressure that so-called vanity deals like Archewell's face in Hollywood's new economic reality of 2022. This is particularly true at digital mega unicorns such as Spotify and Netflix, neither of which is operating by the same rules as they were 2 years ago, when both went on tentpole deal benders with celebrity influencers. You know, that word can be, well, a bit dubious in regards to reputation. Both are dearly dependent on subscriber acquisition and retention for profit margins. So who better than the world's glossiest faces to deliver that? Right? Netflix cancellation of Pearl was part of a larger slash and burn effort. Netflix cancellation of Pearl was part of a larger slash and burn effort underway at the company on the heels of its disastrous first quarter subscriber report. The show's demise is a sign of how drastically things have changed at Netflix and Hollywood in a matter of months. Netflix's subsequent second quarter numbers revealed the first time US subscriber numbers also dropped. Since the company's single-day $60 billion drop in market value in April, the entire entertainment sector has been dragged down with it. And now it's not just Netflix canceling projects and jobs. Warner Bros. Discovery is slashing and burning everything from Batgirl to J.J. Abrams' Batman project. The mega producer's own $500 million deal is believed to be a particular sore point for its CEO. So we're talking that the Hollywood is in real trouble at this point because there's so much content and so much competition. They are still figuring out how to tackle the next 12 months. Indeed, the lingering Archwell deal reflects the good old days in this business, but no more so than at Netflix, which became famous for multi-million-dollar overall deals that combine schmoozing for Sarandos with a sexy headline. The premium paid for Sarandos' pet project is said to have become known internally as the TED tax. Sarandos, whose wife, Nicole Abant, was ambassador to the Bahamas under former President Obama, also had welcomed Mr. and Mrs. O into the Netflix fold in another lavish deal, reported to be in the high 8 figures, 2 years before the Sussexes, even though they too had no Hollywood experience. Like Archwell, the Obama's higher ground productions blazed into Hollywood with noble intentions. Said the president when the 2018 deal was announced, "We hope to cultivate and curate the talented, inspiring, creative voices who are able to promote greater empathy and understanding between peoples and help them share their stories with the entire world." How cute of them. Turns out the mission of promoting empathy between people, at least in 2022, is as hard to accomplish as streaming's full revolution itself. On Spotify's side, they made deals with Archwell and Higher Ground, the two highest profile companies to ride the rich, money-sloshing days of early streaming. Spotify's land grab came when Dawn Ostroff, a popular senior executive from the world of TV, immediately swiping a page from the entertainment world from whence she came, Ostroff launched a ferocious 10-poll spree, signing Joe Rogan exclusive to the platform and spreading the gospel in glossy stories for Rolling Stone and Elle, all while announcing deals with Kim Kardashian and Bill Simmons. Podcasts were the next frontier, and no one was more in zeitgeist than the Sussexes about to exit the UK, and the Obamas wearing their post-White House glow, whom Ostroff personally courted by flying to Washington, D.C. to make the pitch. Both couples were signed to multi-million deals, each worth $25 million to be exact. Can we keep turning the heat up? But at both Netflix and Spotify, whose stocks are down 67% and 69.5% from their hikes, respectively, it's hard not to wonder if these and other VIP deals were more reckless than fearless in hindsight. 4 years into its podcast spree, Spotify has only housed one bona fide hit that's exclusive to its platform, the Joe Rogan Experience. Many of those other splashy headline-making deals have failed to produce the amount of content that would justify their hefty paydays. Kim Kardashian, if they even exist at all anymore, like Ava DuVernay, who are amongst those said to have walked away from their deals. More, podcasting accounted for just 7% of total listening hours in the first quarter of 2022 and just 2% of revenue last year. It's like they making a very long-term bet. Indeed, in phase 2 of the streaming wars, no one seems safe anymore, and the chatter around Hollywood is what deals will be cut, or at least left to drift away to find another home like Disney or Amazon. Abrams, of course, and Ryan Murphy are amongst those with constant whispers. And this is an interesting table that makes a comparison between all the projects of the Obamas, or the Higher Ground Productions, and the projects of the Harkles at Archwell Productions. And you can see that there's a stark contrast in the amount of pieces, documentaries, TV shows, and whatever they were producing at each company. I think this is the point that Meghan began to sweat. Signs of the new order are already underway. The once untouchable Obamas announced their intent to depart from Spotify in late April. They are under contract until October, sparking as many headlines as their arrival at the company. They have since struck a deal with Amazon's Audible. At Netflix, Higher Ground gained acclaim early for notable documentaries, but it's still evolving in the narrative space. You know that storytelling is so important to grab attention and attract audiences. The storytelling is the single most important strategy and tactic, no matter what is the piece of content you're going to create. Podcasts, TV shows, movies. Storytelling, it's everything. As for Archwell, though there's talk of projects coming down the pipeline, there has been no archetypes level launch. Everyone thinks they're well-intentioned, says one publicist. The question around town is output. What have they done lately? To be clear, once the vanity surface is scratched, Archwell and Higher Ground are two distinctly different companies. From the get-go, the Obamas set up a staff at the Higher Ground of well-respected Hollywood executives. That makes sense. You want your project to be successful, so you hire people that know what the hell they are doing with your projects. The company shrewdly leveraged Obama's star wattage to get things done, a strategy that worked wonders given that the Saint Obama halo was still glowing with a post-presidency vengeance when Higher Ground was formed. And here lays the importance of how relevant are your projects to yourself and your audience at the same time. Josh Brown, the co-president of Submarine Entertainment, brokered the sale of the participant media-produced documentary American Factory about a Chinese company that takes over a shuttered Detroit factory and the culture clash that ensues, to Higher Ground at Sundance in 2019. During the meeting in Park City where the sale was finalized, he recalls, an executive at Higher Ground said, "We have a message from Barack and Michelle Obama. We love this movie. It's so important and meaningful." Something along those lines. It reduced 3 to 4 people to tears. It was an incredible moment, Brown says. And at that point, it wasn't like the Obamas had been with a company like Netflix for very long. It felt very special. They were new to the game and it had this hit in their hands. Now people accept that they are involved in entertainment, but at that point it felt very new and different. I think everyone fell under their spell in that room for sure. We had other companies bidding, but the Obamas certainly cinched it. That is also important to have the right nose to detect what can be successful projects. American Factory nabbed the Best Documentary Feature Oscar in 2020, marking Higher Ground as a company to be reckoned with in the documentary space. All the more so when it next released Crip Camp, A Disability Revolution, which received an Oscar nomination a year later. Since its splashy start, the company has put out a respectable slate of films and TV shows, including Michelle Obama's Emmy-winning documentary Becoming, her kids' healthy eating series Waffles and Mochi, the animated adaptation of Ada Twist, Scientist, the 9/11 drama Worth, starring Michael Keaton, which also came out of Sundance, and Fatherhood, a heartfelt Kevin Hart comedy that Higher Ground picked up from Sony during COVID. Most recently, the company partnered with Netflix on the well-received documentary series Our Great National Parks, which the former president narrated. And if you get only one thing from this video is this line: certainly the company has not been dormant. Certainly the company has not been dormant. As one Hollywood insider puts it, they are doing stuff. This is the single most important thing. Every game in life is a game of numbers. You have to put out the content. You have to try things. That is the only way to know what works and what doesn't. But the knock is that too many projects originated somewhere else, with Higher Ground jumping on late as executive producers. There has also been very little produced in the narrative film space. None of this would matter much if the Obamas had struck an ordinary production deal with Netflix. But at Netflix, at least until a few months ago, there was no such thing as ordinary. So it's like Higher Ground is not producing the content themselves. They're finding good projects and jumping in, helping them, and putting the Obama seal of approval, and then everybody wins. That's a nice business model. A source close to Higher Ground says the company's intention was always to start off in their comfort zone, documentaries, before broadening out. Higher Ground also isn't represented by an agency, which would also help connect the dots faster with projects. You know that speed is so important too. In 2020, Netflix created a team of execs to specifically work with producers with overall deals at the company. Netflix is still figuring out how to be a studio on some level, says one former Netflix executive. They're getting better at it, but there needs to be more cross-pollination. Hey, we have a program that needs somebody who, until the last reorganization, there really wasn't a pipeline for the overalls. As for Archwell, it has yet to establish itself as a real player in Hollywood, in part because it has yet to define what it is setting out to do. If you don't know what is your goal, if you don't know where you're going, how can you know what to do to get there? You will end up anywhere. Sources say this stems from Markle, someone who always carefully curated her brand through Instagram posts and her erstwhile blog The Tig, a goop-like aspirational toolkit touting Henry Bendel doggy bowls and sustainable cruise socks that plant trees, but who now finds herself trying to define what her post-royal, post-working actress brand actually is. Because guess what? I don't know either. She's terrified of making a decision because she's so concerned about her image, and so they can't pull the trigger on anything, says a source who has spoken with Archwell about its content strategy. She wants to be seen as this world leader, but they don't have any strong ideas. But my suggestion in this case is you are too preoccupied, too worried about having strong ideas. And what you should be worried instead is to have new, fresh, many ideas and try them, go for them. That's what you have to do. That's what the Obamas did. And that's the big difference gap between them. And that's why you saw those tables with so many projects by Higher Ground and so few projects by Archwell. That's the difference. A source close to Markle disputes this characterization, saying, I would say thoughtful and cautious may be better words than fear. Leading by her truth, oh my god, I have to highlight this. Leading by her truth is always her North Star. Yeah, her truth. You read it here. The couple's limbo state doesn't help. Sure, they abdicated from the House of Windsor, even though Markle's Zoom name remains Duchess of Sussex. Yet their cachet still derives largely from their being part of the royal family, or at least adjacent to it. Case in point, scrutiny around their presence at the Queen's Jubilee. The New York Post reported an anonymous source saying that Netflix must have been upset that there was no photo taken of them with the Queen. But this filament thing tied to the royal family, plus their ambition to be do-gooding Davos-style global ambassadors, prevents Archwell from even considering any light-hearted or irreverent ideas. How about a show theme around quitting high-powered jobs, says Insider. It's funny, but they would never consider something like that because they can't. So, despite hiring top talent, Harry and Meghan's unrelenting cavalcade of non-Hollywood ambitions and interests affects output. A few weeks after the frantic all-hands meeting over Pearl, Markle abruptly took off for Uvalde, Texas to pay her respects to the victims of the elementary school shooting. A week later, she and Harry attended the Queen's Jubilee, where that photo with the Queen never took place. And meanwhile, Harry is busy playing polo and organizing tournaments in Montecito, where he plays for the Los Padres polo team. Upcoming engagements include a trip to England next month for events in Manchester and London, and Harry just returned from a mini tour of Africa. There's no sense of urgency at the company, notes one of the Archwell sources. They are not in a rush, and that is death in the entertainment industry. This moves so fast, it's so blazing fast. Everything happening at the same time that you need to move, you have to produce, you have to put out the content, everything that you got, and they are just waiting for what? The source close to Harkles says several projects are on the way at Netflix and will launch within a few months. As for the docuseries reality show featuring Harry and Meghan, seen as a juicy follow-up to the couple's Oprah sit-down, and according to one source was the main motivation surrounders had for making the deal, it is in the queue. A Netflix spokesperson would not comment about the docuseries, but says that Archwell projects are indeed on the horizon. Now, about that first episode of Meghan's podcast, Nicholas Qua, who writes Voltaire's podcast newsletter 1.5 Speed, says Archetypes is a huge turning point for Archwell's podcast endeavor and Spotify's. I really thought it was not going to come out. Guess what? We neither. He says, there's been a big question about Spotify and whether it's able to deliver on these big content deals, particularly the quote-unquote vanity deals. Tina Brown, author of the Palace Papers, affirms, I think the Sussexes are beginning to realize the mirage of entertainment deals, which are wildly difficult to deliver on, as everyone in Hollywood knows. It's much, much easier to be a royal, which offers perennial status without much requirement for cool. Watch for the pivot in a year or two, when the Sussexes feel the calling to return to the UK to serve Harry's country and rejoin the balcony lineup for which front page coverage is assured. The final thoughts. Spotify was successful in bringing in Joe Rogan from other platforms and making him exclusive on Spotify. That's not to say his audience didn't drop, it did. But it's an entirely different thing to introduce a new show that has never existed elsewhere, exclusively on Spotify, and have that be successful. Are these vanity collections of celebrities to boost stock price? Or are they about being a partner with celebrities and helping them understand the space in order to build a sustainable, ongoing business that matches the demand of the market and the revenue potential from advertising? McCrary asks rhetorically. Neither of those seem to be in alignment for either Archwell or higher ground. So this is big trouble for everyone involved. For the Obamas, at least, the debate is now moot. In late June, they signed the new $20 million deal with Spotify rival Audible, which is owned by Amazon. And with Archetypes, Archwell has a state of criticism, at least for the moment. So this was an amazing insight on vanity deals and why do they work sometimes and why, well, they tend to flop in others. It's more like how much content are you able to produce, and maybe not just make yourself, but find people that are producing great content and help them put it in front of many people. It's that easy because you are the platform. It's only your name that is needed. You have the clout, you have the fame, you have the halo, you have the attention, then use it. So why the Sussexes can't just do that? This article has a very good explanation. They're so embellished, so focused on big ideas. We have to be the best of the best that you have some kind of paralysis, that you can afford yourself to be creative, that you can afford yourself to look at these small opportunities that can be big breaks on the long term. So only time will tell. My body language buddies, my name is Jesus Enrique Rosas, I'm the body language guy, and don't forget to download my 100 body language tips right in the description of this video. Much love and bliss.